The 4th of July in Marietta, Ohio, is always lively. Family barbecues, homemade fireworks, and kids running through sprinklers and backyards. It's the kind of town where everyone knows each other's names, or at least their faces. But in 2016, the holiday turned into something much darker for the Matson family. That year, David and Michelle Matson decided to skip the city fireworks and celebrate at home with their two kids, 12-year-old Ellie and 9-year-old Ryan. They lived near the edge of town, where the streetlights got sparse and the woods pressed close against backyard fences. It was quiet, peaceful, the kind of place where you could light sparklers and roast marshmallows under the stars. Around 9 p.m., just as dusk settled and the last of the burgers were eaten, David noticed something strange out past the tree line behind their backyard. A single firework, small, red, and silent, shot up through the trees. No sound, just a thin arc of red light, then a soft bloom in the sky. He looked at Michelle, confused. The city show doesn't start until 9:30. No one else lives back there, she replied. The woods stretched on for a mile or more. Private property. No trails. No roads. Then came another firework. This one was green. Silent. Again. The kids clapped, thinking it was part of the show. But David frowned. That's coming from inside the woods. They watched for a few more minutes. More fireworks, small, eerily quiet ones, launched every 30 seconds, always from the same direction, deeper and deeper into the trees. Eventually, curiosity got the better of him. David grabbed a flashlight and said, "Just going to check it out. Probably teens messing around." He walked past the fence, through the gate, and into the trees. Michelle waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. She called his phone. No answer. That's when Ryan pointed out something. "Mom," he said, "look, another firework. This one orange, went up, but it wasn't coming from the same spot. It was closer. Then another. Blue. Even closer. It was as if the fireworks were slowly moving toward the house." Michelle felt her chest tighten. She called David again. Still nothing. She ushered the kids inside, locked the doors, and turned off the patio lights. From the upstairs window, they watched the tree line. Another firework. Now just beyond the yard. And then came the sound. Not of fireworks, but of something dragging. A long, slow scrape against the wooden fence. Michelle turned on the backyard floodlight. Nothing was there. But as soon as she turned it off again, Ryan screamed. A figure stood at the edge of the yard. Not moving, just watching. Dressed in black, holding what looked like a firework launcher. Only, it wasn't. The figure raised its arm. A red spark hissed upward, but it didn't rise like a firework. It arced toward the house. Michelle ducked, grabbed her kids, and ran to the bathroom. The object hit the lawn and fizzled, a strange chemical smoke rising in its place. They stayed hidden until they heard pounding on the front door. Then, a voice. Not shouting, not angry, just calm, repeating, "Don't forget to celebrate. Don't forget to celebrate." It said it 10 times. Then silence. By the time police arrived, the yard was empty. No figure. No signs of damage. Just scorched grass in 3 circular patches. David was found walking along the road near the edge of the woods, dazed, silent. He had no memory of leaving the yard and couldn't explain where he'd been. Michelle later checked their security camera. The backyard feed cut out just before the first firework entered frame. The footage resumed 30 minutes later, showing David standing in the middle of the yard, eyes open, holding a red flare. The strange part? He was barefoot, and his feet were completely clean. No mud, no dirt, as if he hadn't walked through the woods at all. That house was sold within the month. No one celebrates the 4th of July on that street anymore. And if you ask the neighbors why, they'll just shake their heads. They don't like to talk about the night fireworks came from the woods. In 2014, in a quiet suburb outside of Tacoma, Washington, a strange 4th of July event occurred, one that to this day the residents of Ashgrove Lane still don't like to talk about. It was a cul-de-sac neighborhood, tight-knit. Neighbors hosted an annual potluck every Independence Day, complete with a community fireworks show put together by a few dads who prided themselves on their backyard pyrotechnics. They'd buy the good stuff from across the state line: mortars, cakes, Roman candles. Nothing illegal, just flashy. That year, around 9:30 p.m., the party was in full swing. Families set up lawn chairs, drinks in hand, kids glowing with sparklers. The first batch of fireworks launched as expected, big colorful bursts, cheering, laughter. Then came an odd silence. No one launched anything. But from the sky above the tree line, a series of massive white flares began going off, larger than anything they'd bought. Perfect spherical bursts, silent and impossibly high. Everyone looked around, confused. "Who's setting those off?" someone asked. No one had an answer. The dads running the show looked just as puzzled. None of them had launched anything. Another flare. Then 2 more, glowing white orbs that didn't burst, but hovered, slowly dimming in the sky instead of falling. Then came the sound. A deep, low hum, not from the ground, but from above. Like a sustained vibration, almost subsonic. It made some of the kids cover their ears and cry. One of the neighbors, Tom, was a retired Air Force radar tech. He stood up pale. "That's not a plane, and those aren't fireworks." The flares began to reform, blinking in a slow circular motion high above the houses. Then, all at once, they stopped. Not faded, just blinked out. The air felt charged, like standing too close to a power box. And then, without warning, every light in the cul-de-sac went out. Porch lights, street lamps, even flashlights dead. For 2 minutes, the neighborhood sat in total blackness. No cell signals, no sound, just the wind and the faint sizzle of dying sparklers. When the lights returned, something was off. One of the kids, 8-year-old Lily, was missing. They searched frantically. Her sparkler was still in the grass. Her plastic chair tipped over, but no sign of her. No footprints leading away. No sound of running. Just gone. The police were called. A search party combed the woods. Dogs, drones, nothing. At 3:17 a.m., Lily reappeared, right in the middle of the cul-de-sac, standing, silent, covered in damp sand. She couldn't say where she'd been. Her eyes were wide and unfocused. When asked, all she whispered was, "The sky people don't like the noise." She slept for 20 hours straight after that, and for weeks refused to go outside after dark. Her shoes were missing. Her socks were dry. And on the back of her neck was a strange, perfectly round burn mark, no bigger than a penny. Doctors couldn't explain it. That night, multiple residents reported odd dreams, tunnels, cold air, voices speaking backwards. The footage from doorbell cameras corrupted, files wiped as if those 5 minutes were erased from time. But the strangest thing of all came the next morning. A man in a gray suit, no ID, no badge, came door to door. He wasn't threatening. He simply asked, "Did you enjoy the fireworks show last night?" He repeated it, even when neighbors said they didn't understand. Before leaving, he said, "Just remember, the sky celebrates too." Then he got into a black car and drove off. No plates. Every year since, on July 4th, Ashgrove Lane refuses to gather. No fireworks. No cookouts. Just a quiet dusk. And occasionally, someone looks up and sees one white orb, high above, flickering, as if watching. Small towns live for the 4th of July. In 2019, the town of Terry Glen, Illinois, threw its biggest Independence Day celebration in over a decade. The mayor's office announced a full lineup, a morning pancake breakfast, a 5K run, and most notably, the return of the long-retired Liberty Parade. This meant floats, marching bands, fire trucks, local dance teams, and kids waving flags from hay bales. Everyone came out, including Sarah, a 17-year-old high school student volunteering as a spotter for the parade route. Her job was simple: walk alongside the bigger floats and make sure kids didn't run too close to the wheels. The float she was assigned to was a big one, the Founding Fathers float, built by the Terry Glen Historical Society. It had a full-size replica of the Liberty Bell, and volunteers dressed like George Washington, Jefferson, and Franklin. Cheesy? Yes. But Sarah loved it. She planned to film the parade for her YouTube channel. The morning went smoothly, until the float turned onto Main and 9th. That's when Sarah noticed something strange. Just behind the large wheelbase of the float, barely visible in the shade, she saw a man underneath, curled up beside the axle. At first, she thought it might have been part of the float design. But then he moved. His head shifted. Eyes opened. Sarah froze mid-step. She was only 10 feet away. He was covered in dirt. Pale. Eyes wide like he hadn't seen light in weeks. She glanced up to the volunteers on the float. None of them seemed aware. They waved and shouted to the crowd. Sarah stepped closer to the back of the float, motioning to one of the supervisors nearby. But when she looked again, he was gone. Not rolled out. Not ran off. Just vanished. She tried to laugh it off, maybe heat stroke, or maybe someone playing a prank. But as the float continued, she kept hearing this soft clanking from beneath it, like chains bumping metal. It got worse during the next turn. The Liberty Bell replica began to shake slightly. The actors stumbled. Someone shouted. The float jolted, then resumed smoothly like nothing had happened. That night, Sarah uploaded her parade footage. But while reviewing it frame by frame for editing, she saw something her camera picked up that her eyes hadn't. At 12:44, just as the float turns down Main Street, a figure crawls from beneath the float for 1 second, long arms, filthy hands, face distorted. Not the same man she saw earlier. Something else. Its mouth is open, and it seems to be screaming, though there's no sound. Sarah showed her parents, then the local police. They told her it was a glitch, maybe someone walking too close and caught at a bad angle. But the Historical Society reached out the next day, and they weren't laughing. That float had been stored for years in the old textile mill at the edge of town. The same mill that had been condemned in 1997 after a fire that killed 3 transients squatting inside. The only body ever recovered? A man in his 30s, found chained beneath a rolling supply cart. Rumor in town was that one of the volunteers who built the float swore he heard someone whispering under the chassis when they moved it last week, but chalked it up to wind. Sarah took the video down, but copies started spreading. Some say that if you zoom into the wheel wells in the last 10 minutes, you'll see a pair of hands holding the float from below. Others claim the float shook during other points in the parade, but only when it passed closed buildings or dark windows. After the event, the Historical Society retired the float permanently. It was dismantled, burned, and oddly enough, the replica Liberty Bell shattered on its own during the process, without any visible pressure. Sarah no longer films parades. She moved to Chicago for college. But on her Instagram, someone commented under an old 4th of July photo, "Was under the float with you. Thanks for walking close." The account deleted. The IP untraceable.